The Zephyrian Council had made their decision with the cold certainty that came from millennia of galactic dominance. Humans were fragile, they declared, soft-skinned mammals who needed their perfect little blue world to survive. When the diplomatic tensions escalated into open conflict, the Zephyrians saw an opportunity for both punishment and proof. "Send them to Kethmoran," High Chancellor Vexthal announced, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the council chambers' harsh lights. "Let the Death World teach these upstart primates their place in the cosmic order." The other council members clicked their approval. Kethmoran was legendary even among their warrior species, a planet where the very air could kill, where the ground itself seemed alive with malevolent intent. They had discovered it during their expansion centuries ago and marked it as uninhabitable, even by their hardy standards. Gravity 3 times that of Earth, an atmosphere thick with sulfuric compounds, storms that could strip flesh from bone, and native predators that made Zephyrian nightmares seem tame. It was the perfect prison. The human delegation of 50, scientists, soldiers, and civilians caught in the wrong place at the wrong time, were unceremoniously dumped on Kethmoran's surface with minimal supplies. The Zephyrians expected to return in a few rotations, to collect corpses, perhaps to display them as a warning to other species who might challenge their authority. Dr. Sarah Chen was among those 50. A xenobiologist by training, she watched the Zephyrian transport disappear into the toxic sky, and felt her heart sink as the reality set in. Around her, others wept or raged or simply stared in shock at the hellish landscape that stretched in every direction. "We have maybe 48 hours of air in these suits," announced Captain Marcus Rodriguez, the senior military officer among them. After that, he didn't need to finish. The atmosphere readings were clear. Sulfur dioxide concentrations that would kill them in minutes. Methane pockets that could ignite without warning, and an oxygen content so low it might as well have been vacuum. But humans, Dr. Chen reflected as she began taking readings, had not conquered their own world by giving up when things looked impossible. Within hours, the survivors had organized themselves with the brutal efficiency that crisis brings. The engineers, led by a brilliant woman named Priya Nakamura, began analyzing the atmospheric composition for any possible workarounds. The soldiers established a perimeter and began cataloging threats. The medical team, headed by Dr. James Okafor, started rationing their limited medications and supplies. Dr. Chen made a discovery that changed everything. The native fungi, massive twisted things that looked like malevolent trees, were actually processing the toxic atmosphere. Not only that, but they were producing a byproduct that, when filtered properly, could supplement their oxygen supply. "It's not clean air," she reported to the growing council of survivors. "But it's breathable. We can make this work." The Zephyrians had made a fundamental error in their understanding of humanity. They saw fragility where humans saw adaptability. They saw weakness where humans saw opportunity. When the storms came, howling winds carrying razor-sharp particles that could shred their makeshift shelters, the humans didn't cower. They studied the storm patterns, learned to predict them, and built underground. When the native predators emerged, 6-legged monstrosities with diamond-hard claws and acid for blood, the humans didn't flee. They observed, learned, and found ways to avoid or deter them. Private Liu discovered that the predators were actually afraid of fire, despite the dangerous atmosphere. Master Sergeant Thompson learned that the creatures hunted by electrical, field detection, and taught everyone how to mask their signatures. Dr. Okafor found that certain mineral deposits on the planet could be processed into crude but effective medications. 6 months passed. The Zephyrians, expecting to find a world littered with human remains, instead detected organized settlements, cultivation of native flora, and most impossible of all, thriving human life signs. High Chancellor Vexthal personally led the return expedition, certain their instruments were malfunctioning. What they found defied everything they understood about survival. The humans had not merely survived Kethmoran, they had begun to tame it. Underground complexes connected by sealed tunnels, hydroponic gardens growing earth plants in modified Kethmoran soil, water purification systems that turned the planet's toxic precipitation into something drinkable. Most disturbing of all, some humans were walking on the surface with only minimal protection, having somehow adapted their equipment and techniques to the hostile environment. Dr. Chen, now clearly the leader of the human settlement, met the Zephyrian delegation at their landing site. Her suit was patched and modified with local materials, and she moved with the confidence of someone who had not just survived, but mastered her circumstances. "Chancellor Vexithal," she said, her voice clear through the communication system. "We've been expecting you." The High Chancellor's mandibles clicked in confusion. "You should all be dead." Dr. Chen smiled, an expression the Zephyrian had learned to interpret as uniquely human defiance mixed with amusement. "You made the same mistake everyone makes about humans. You confused fragility with weakness, adaptation with fragility. We're not the strongest species in the galaxy, or the fastest, or the most naturally armored. But we're the ones who look at a death world and see a home that just needs some work." She gestured to the bustling settlement visible through the toxic haze. "Kethmoran isn't our prison, Chancellor. It's our new colony. And we'd like to discuss trade agreements." The Zephyrian Council had intended to break humanity's spirit. Instead, they had given them a foothold in a region of space no other species could claim. The humans weren't just surviving on the death world. They were building something the galaxy had never seen, a civilization that could thrive anywhere. As news of the Kethmoran colony spread throughout the galaxy, other species began to reconsider their assumptions about the seemingly fragile humans. Perhaps there was more to these persistent primates than met the eye. Perhaps they had severely underestimated what it meant to be human.